Well, this is an amazing treat. Music royalty, I can call you that, can't I? Tony Hadley, hello.
Thank you very much. Music royalty. I don't want to get called a musical legend, but yeah.
I tell you what, without your voice, this world would be a darker place.
Well, that's really lovely. I mean, some people like, well, a lot of people like my voice, which is great. I mean, some people don't. It depends. I mean, I suppose my voice it always sounds like me. When I was younger, I trained with an opera singer called Pamela Dodds, and she was an amazing Canadian lady. So for 2 years, I had singing lessons, which is what I recommend to all young singers as well.
Right.
And she said to me, "You've got a really unique voice. It sounds like you. I don't want to teach you to sing like an opera singer or anything. I just want you to be able to sing and still have a voice in 40 odd years' time." And she was right, and I'm still singing in the same keys and everything else. So I'm very, very lucky, and I thank her because she was just amazing. But whatever I sing, if I'm looking down the list of songs that we're going to be looking at. If I sing a Bowie song, I sound like Tony Hadley.
Well, someone once said that you were kind of a really cool mash-up of Bowie and Sinatra. If you put two of the voices together, and I can hear that.
Yeah, I suppose so, actually. I mean, Sinatra, Bennett, Jack Jones, loved those guys. And also I was listening to sort of people like Vic Damone and Mario Lanza as well. It was very hard. And it was all a bit kind of semi-operatic as well. So I always say, when you listen to Cut Long Story Short, for instance, the very first single we recorded, and I did the vocal on the day we signed the record deal.
Did you?
I was a bit squiffy. We had champagne at Chrysalis Records for the first... I'd never had champagne before, and it was very nice. And... but I remember, because if you listen to Cut a Long Story, it's all a bit like that.
Yes.
And I suppose that got the instant recognition. And for me, singers are about instant recognition. It doesn't matter if you're technically I'm not the most brilliant technical singer on the planet. There are other people that can do more twiddles than me. And everything else. But it's about putting the record on and instantly knowing that's David Bowie, that's Freddie Mercury, or whoever.
I was listening to that song thinking, so you were squiffy. How much champagne had you had?
Well, we signed the deal at Chrysalis Records in Stratford Place, and every schoolboy's dream. The first thing you want when you're in a band is to sign a record deal.
Of course.
And the second thing is to be on Top of the Pops. For those viewers who don't, listeners who don't know, Top of the Pops was a big pop program.
I mean, the whole country watched it.
Everyone.
Thursday night, 7 p.m.
Your aunties and uncles, your nan and granddad sit there going, "Well, look at the state of him. God, dear, So we signed a record deal, and of course they plied us with champagne. 5 young lads, and we were going, "Yeah, all right, I'll have another glass of that." And we went to Jam Studios, Tollington Park Road in Finsbury Park, and that's where I did the vocal for To Cut Long Story Short, and literally hanging onto a mic stand.
For dear life.
Yeah, for dear life. But, hey, listen, I did it, and it came off, and it was our first single went to number 5.
The next song on your list is Flock of Seagulls.
Yeah.
And you mentioned to me a moment ago that what was it? So you went to Australia and you met, who was it? The lead singer, was it?
I went to Australia. I was doing promotion or something in Australia for a forthcoming tour, and Go West were playing, and Flock of Seagulls.
Yeah.
Well, I've known the Westie Boys for years, and Flock of Seagulls I always thought were a kind of... They were a pretty cool band. He had that big hair, didn't he? Mike Score, yeah. And this particular song, I think, is magical. I love this song. And so I went there, and it was the first time I'd met Mike Score, and it was like, "Hi, mate, how are you?" And contrary to what a lot of people, I think, they think about people, artists and stuff, artists gravitate towards each other. When you're backstage at whatever venue it might be, and there's other artists there, or festivals, we all kind of, "Hi, mate, how are you?" Doesn't matter what the chart rivalry is or was. Artists just like to sort of hang out together, and he was absolutely brilliant, and he did this song that night, and I was made up.
Tony Hadley's with me. It's wonderful meeting you. We were just chatting about the name Spandau Ballet, and it came from a fellow broadcaster, Robert Elms, in a toilet in Berlin, wasn't it?
That is true.
And he read the word Spandau Ballet on a toilet wall. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, because when we started, we were 16. We were at Dame Alice Owen's school. We'd moved from the Angel to Potter's Bar, and we our first name was The Roots. We were doing R&B covers. Then we were the Cut. We were a bit edgier. Then we were the Makers, so we were like a punk power pop band. And we played all the punk clubs in London at that point.
Yeah, amazing.
And then we were Gentry. Then we didn't have a name. And at one point we were thinking, is this going to work? And we nearly broke up, actually. But we then discovered the whole synth thing, Billy's Blitz. And then Bob Elms came up with the name. Literally went to Berlin, and Berlin always had that kind of mystique about it, that edginess. And he said, I've got the name. I went to the loo, stood there, looked up, and graffitied on the wall was Spandau Ballet. And there's 5 young lads from Islington went, what?
You what?
You what? Ballet? We're lads, we are. We're geezers, aren't we? Ballet? We don't do ballet. And anyway, that was it. And once we realised how to pronounce it, we said that'll be the name.
And now it's such a household name, isn't it? It rolls off the tongue. So familiar.
You don't even think about it. But I suppose everyone's looking. I mean, if you look at the names of a lot of the bands in the 80s, Ultravox, Duran Duran, Culture Club, Classics Nouveau, Flock of Seagulls, Human League. Everything had a slightly avant-garde kind of, in some cases, futuristic kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
And the fact was, you're always looking for something, you don't want to be called, the John.
Yeah, it's got to be memorable.
It's got to be memorable.
Although it could have been the John in the toilet.
Could have been the John, yeah.
Tell me about, introduce this, Roxy Music. Why this song?
Roxy Music, early 70s, grew up listening to Roxy, Bowie, Mark Bolan, Bebop Deluxe. I mean, there's so many great artists, Rod, Elton. And I've chosen this because I think it's just such a cool song. Brian Ferry, one of the coolest cucumbers on the planet, and a thoroughly nice bloke. I've met him several times.
Have you?
And he was really lovely. And he had that coolness about it. And Phil Manzanera and just Paul Thompson on drums.
Yeah.
It just had a vibe to it.
And the vocal on this as well is just the 10 out of 10, isn't it?
And, I spoke earlier about unique sounding singers, and Brian Ferry has got one of the most identifiable voices on the planet. And I just think Roxy and Brian Ferry, super cool. Love them to bits.
This is amazing. Hanging out with you Sunday night. It's Tony Hadley here, and we're going through all these. I mean, these are great 80s songs, and you were, you own that decade. That decade's your voice, isn't it? Plus more, but you're very synonymous with one of the greatest decades around.
Yeah.
And you put Robert Palmer down on your list, the late Robert Palmer, but when it comes to talent, charm, commiserate, kind of charismatic,
super cool.
Wasn't he
super
amazing?
Cool suits.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been a great believer in growing old reasonably gracefully. So Brian Ferry always looks super cool with his anti-price suits. Robert Palmer again. I would look ridiculous if I came out on stage now with leather pants and a ruffled shirt. And so take the Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Robert Palmer, Brian Ferry school of sort of fashion, and just get a nice suit and be fairly smart. So I just, that kind of suits me. And at 63, I think that's a good thing to do. And Robert Palmer, again, I've met Robert Palmer. What a lovely, lovely man. And quick story. So we were in Germany.
Yeah.
And I think Geldof was there and several other bands. We were doing some sort of pop show there. And we're in the bar with Robert Palmer. And he said, I think I'm going to crash out. I said, yeah, I think I will as well. So we're in the lift. And he said, do you fancy a nightcap? I've got a bottle of something in my room. He said, can I play you my new album? I said, yeah, of course you can, Rob. So we went in there, and he got the big stereo in there. We sat there with a couple of glasses of Jack or whatever it was, and all of a sudden, Simply Irresistible, Addicted to Love. He said, what do you think? Do you think it's a hit? I said, do you think it's a hit? This is amazing. And we listened to the whole album.
Yeah.
And I said, Robert, this is fantastic. And I'd always loved him before anyway.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just delightful to sit with one of your heroes, checking out his music. And
why have you put this song on, Tony?
Because it's simple. It's really simple song, and it's Robert. I think it is. I mean, I know Simply Irresistible, Addicted to Love. We love those songs, but this is just such a simplistic kind of song. But it's not. There's a lot more to it, and it's just beautiful.
of course, we must mention this. You're an ex-radio presenter. You're one of my colleagues, really, Tony, aren't you? Well, back in the day.
I did Virgin Radio for a while, and then I did BBC Three Counties Radio. I did local radio. So that was during lockdown.
Right.
And they taught me how to use the desk and everything.
Wow, so you really are. I've got a competition here.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that, actually. But I'm not very good with computers and technology. But anyway, I learned how to do it. I did make some faux pas. There were moments where it's sort of, and I'm chatting away and the girl would come running in, Kimberly usually, and say, "You're not on air." And I thought, oh, I've pressed the wrong button.
We've all been there. If you listen to me at 5 a.m.
It happens, doesn't it? You just press the wrong button or whatever. Anyway, so I love that. BBC Three Counties, did that during lockdown. But then after lockdown, it was like gigs. Everyone's catching up. And I just didn't have the time to continue it. But I love radio, and it's great because I was allowed to play what I wanted.
Yeah.
All the songs that I love.
We'd love to have you back, actually. I think that, let's
thank you very much.
Honestly, we would love to have you back. Let me ask you, I've got 1,000 questions, but I'm just going to let you speak about the boss. To come up with one song as you have here, was that a difficult task? And why this song? And why him? Why has he made it onto your list?
I love a lot of American music. So John Cougar Mellencamp, Tom Petty, love Tom Petty. There's other artists that we're going to talk about as well. But I love a lot of that American, sort of Toto, Kiss. I mean, just there's something about it. And when you do, I spent quite a lot of time in LA as well. And when you've got the open top car and the sun's shining and you've got the FM on and you've got a bit of rock blaring out, it's great. A bit of Poison. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And Bruce Springsteen, I saw him, the first time I ever saw him was when Spandau Ballet were touring Australia. So it was 1984, 85. And I went to see Bruce Springsteen. I was just blown away. He was incredible. And I just think he's such a great songwriter, such a great storyteller. I wish I'd seen his show in New York. He did a one-man show just with a guitar.
Such a showman, isn't he?
Amazing. But let's get this right. So Paul Young, who's a great friend of mine.
Yeah.
So he was in LA. So I said, "What do you do?" He said, he's into his bikes, Harley Davidson, and so is Bruce Springsteen as well. So he said, "Yeah, I went riding with Bruce Springsteen." I said, "You what?" He said, "I went riding, me and Bruce Springsteen on our Harley Davidsons, riding around the Hollywood Hills." And I was so jealous. I was like, "Oh no!" But I just think he's great. I saw him at he was at the Arsenal as well. He played a gig there, and I want to see him when he comes back. Just a phenomenal performer, and did I say that right? Phenomenal.
It's phenomenal.
He's a phenomenal. He's just brilliant, and he's written so many brilliant songs.
Yeah,
love it bits.
Great stuff. As we go into Def Leppard, I must just ask you about Live Aid, because people that were there on that day, that day has gone down in history, hasn't it?
40 years.
When you were there, did you realise on that day when you were there that this is something special? This will be remembered.
Yeah, I did when it got to Live Aid. When we were doing Band Aid, the single. I mean, that was literally Bob saying, "Look, I really want to make a difference. I'm just phoning up all my mates. Will you come down?" And us and the Duranis literally flew in from Germany, a bit worse for wear. So
was it right that you turn up on that day?
Yeah.
Song?
We flew in.
You literally flew in for it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And by the time that Bob had asked us to contribute, a bit of time had gone by, and all of a sudden the whole thing had just mushroomed, and there we were. And someone said, "There's like 300 fans outside and loads of cameras and everything else." So we're all in the toilet, put a bit of makeup on, put a bit of hairspray, as you do, and there we were. And we turned up at it was Psalm West, Trevor Horn's studio, and there was Midge, Bob, and all your contemporaries. I mean, Paul Weller, the Nanas, Status Quo, everybody and their dog were in the control room. And then I remember Bob saying, "Well, go on then, Hadley, go on, you go down and start." And I said, "Oh no!" So of course I had to go down there, did a couple of takes, did my lines,
and all your contemporaries are listening to you.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was
pressure
terrifying,
must have,
terrifying, and it was absolutely brilliant. Phil Collins, he did the drums, Sting, the Duranis. It was quite amazing. So at that point, we thought, "Wow, this is amazing. This is going to be great." But I don't think any of us, even Bob, thought it would lead to Live Aid. Mm-hmm. But by the time we got to Live Aid in 85, that was wow, we're really making a difference. And then you had London, Philadelphia, artists of such calibre, it's incredible. And this was new technology. I mean, this had never been done before. You know, satellite technology, broadcast around the world simultaneously, just incredible. What a day. And contrary to what actually people think about the music business, everyone was backstage, everyone was super friendly. We had the Hard Rock Cafe doing the burgers. We had a few beers here and there. Walking in to see Freddie and the boys, you know, the Queen boys, and good luck, Fred, and everything else. He didn't need any luck. He's a master, isn't he? He was amazing. Status Quo starting it, incredible.
Why? Let's get back to your list. Why have you picked Animal by Def Leppard? What a band these are. It's a wall of sound, isn't it? Why have you gone for this one, Tony?
I love Def Leppard. I'm a bit of a rocker. I'm a popper, but I'm actually quite a rocker. And Def Leppard for me, produced that Hysteria album by Mutt Lange. I mean, he's an amazing producer.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to Joe Elliott, because we spent a lot of time in Ireland. We were living in Dublin for quite a while.
Oh, right, okay.
And so was Joe and the boys. So we used to meet up and go out and everything else. And not only do I love their music, but they're just a brilliant bunch of lads. And when Spinal Tap came out, Joe said, I've got Spinal Tap. So he invited all the Spandau boys to go around Joe's place with all the Def Leppard guys to watch Spinal Tap. Now, we're all watching it. Now, we are falling about on the floor watching Spinal Tap. And Def Leppard are laughing, but not quite as much as we were, because it was pretty close to home. I mean, it was like, you know, spandex pants and long hair.
It was the look.
It was the look, you know. But Joe and the lads are a lovely bunch of guys. They really are, and I've always loved Joe's voice. That kind of growly sort of rock voice.
Yeah,
and,
it's really.
So that's why pretty much everybody on this list of people are people that I know and have got real association with.
The next two artists, you were chatting earlier about, you know, out and out brilliant showmen who can put on the very best show. I mean, these next couple, I mean, got Bowie in a moment, but Alice Cooper, the guillotine, the fake blood, the makeup. I mean, you know,
brilliant. And in 1972, I think it was, School's Out, still got the original single.
Yes.
What kid did not buy that record? I went down Chapel Market, that's it, I want Alice Cooper, School's Out. You know, played at home. Of course, your mum and dad are thinking, this is not very good, is it? School's Out. It's a bit.
Where's this going?
It's a little bit naughty, isn't it? But every kid was singing it.
Yeah.
And then I had the great pleasure of meeting Alice Cooper. I did an orchestral tour of South America with John Anderson and Alice Cooper and Alan Parsons.
Oh wow! Okay.
Alan Parsons Project. And just amazing. With an orchestra, we were going around South America, and Alice Cooper was phenomenal.
What's he really like?
He's just a great guy.
Yeah.
He's just we went out to dinner. He's just, you know, we're chatting with him and his wife and stuff, and just a thoroughly nice, down to earth fella. You know, and I'm thinking, this is Alice Cooper. This is School's Out. I was a kid when I bought the record.
Yeah.
And he was amazing. So I'd see him quite often in the mornings. He's literally an amazing golfer, scratch golfer. So I'd see him in the morning and go, hey, Don, how's it going? I said, yeah, all right, Alice, you going off to play a bit? Yeah, I'm going to play with Sevi Ballesteros or something.
I didn't know that.
Oh, no, he plays with top golfers. He's a scratch golfer.
Okay.
And he would go out in his golf gear, and then in the evening, he would become Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
And he'd put his leathers on, and he watches his kung fu films, and all of a sudden, his whole persona just changes.
Yeah.
And he literally becomes Alice Cooper. And he's incredible.
I wonder why you went for this one, because this came out in '89. This is like at the end of, I mean, almost 20 years after School's Out.
Yeah.
Why this one?
Just great, you know. It's
a great song, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got all that angst and grit and stuff like that. And he's just, I don't know, it's just a great song.
Yeah. And tell me about Bowie. Tony Hadley's here. What a Sunday night. Me and you.
I know.
All these great songs.
We're talking about people that have influenced me and been part of our lives.
Yeah, but you've met them all. I mean, this is like, it blows me away. I'm just going to let you talk. Come on, Tony Hadley, Bowie.
I'm not being Charlie Big Potatoes, but I suppose being 43 years in the business, you have met loads of people.
Well, they're your contemporaries as well, aren't they?
And heroes as well. And I think one of the loveliest things is that when you do meet your heroes, they've all turned out to be really lovely people. and that for me has been absolutely amazing. And David Bowie is just a great, not only a brilliant artist, and so he's been so he changes. He's the chameleon of pop.
Yeah.
But I remember getting my first record, David Bowie record, was The World of David Bowie in 1970-71, and my mum said, and I was my uncle had a record shop, so he gave it to me, and I was playing the record, and my mum said, "Oh, is that the new Anthony Newley record?" And I said, "You what, Mum? This is David Bowie." And if you listen to Anthony Newley, half a pound of tuppenny rice, half a pound of treacle, and it was all a bit like that. And if you listen to David Bowie, The World of David Bowie, Uncle Arthur, Little Boy Blue, it was very Anthony Newley.
How fascinating. I never have thought of that.
Yeah, and you honestly check it out. And the great thing, well, one of the great, not so great, but Spotify, you can instantly check out your heroes in a nanosecond.
Yeah.
But, and so Bowie was brilliant. And then, of course, met Bowie at Geldof's wedding and Live Aid. And it's just a really, you know, when your hero says, "Oh, hi, Tony, how you doing?" You go, "That's David Bowie."
Was he almost otherworldly? I've met a few people who knew him, who met him, and said there was just something about him.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird thing, because is that you fixing that sort of sensation in your head, or is it them as a person? And I'm never quite sure. You know, when I've had people meet me, and sometimes they've said, "I was so nervous about meeting you because I thought you were really aloof," and I went, "Nope, I'm just one of the blokes. I'm a geezer, you know."
Yeah.
And so sometimes people manifest things in their own mind. But when I met him, I mean, I was, you know, wow, this is David Bowie. Yeah, but he was super cool and such a talented man. And also, may I say, a great singer. And he's not given enough. Life on Mars, which I've sung, that's an incredible vocal on that. It's an incredible vocal.
Is it a difficult one to sing?
Yeah, when you hit that Mars, I mean, that's high, full voice. That's pretty. Yeah, as a first. Sometimes we used to do it as a first song, and all of a sudden I'm thinking that big note's coming, and I've got to give it the balls.
Was it difficult to pick one Queen song? Because what a back catalogue. We're talking about people with incredible voices as well. Freddie.
Freddie and the boys, wonderful. What a lovely bunch of guys. And Freddie was brilliant. He gave me sort of mentored me a little bit as a young singer, and just gave me a few tips as to you know who you are, what your responsibilities are as a lead singer.
Can I ask what he said to you?
Yeah, I mean he was consummate. He really was, and he said to me, he said, "You always remember that, you know, the lead singer is always the focal point." And he would sort of, you know, forget about the guitarist, the drummer, darling, don't worry about them, darling. And you know, you're the one that's got to carry this through. You're singing the melodies.
Yeah.
And there are going to be times on tour when you're going to be tired, you're going to have a cold, you're going to be feeling fluey. He said, but never apologise on stage. And if anything, be even more larger than life if you're feeling a bit worn down or whatever. And I thought that was brilliant advice. Just remember, you're the one that's got to communicate with the audience, both in a talky way, but also vocally as well.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was amazing advice. And he was just so lovely. And then a couple of years ago, we were in Australia, and we were there with the Queen boys. They were there with Adam Lambert. And Roger came to one of our shows. And afterwards, we sat down, myself, Roger, Spike Edney, who's the unsung hero keyboard player with Queen.
Yeah.
And we just reminisced about times with Freddie and how brilliant he was. And one of the best voices ever. But this particular song, Who Wants to Live Forever, I did a thing, I've done it a couple of times now, called Young Voices. And in fact, it's on tour at the moment. And they encourage school kids to sing. So they have a rock band on stage, and we have 5,000 kids singing in arenas.
It looks incredible. I've seen some of this.
And it gives those children a chance to feel what it's like to be in that kind of atmosphere. And their energy and enthusiasm is fantastic. It's all charity based as well.
Yeah.
And so I've had, I've been lucky enough to sing with them a couple of times, Sing with All the Children, and Who Wants to Live Forever was the Queen song that I did on the last tour.
It's just coming off the back of that song. I always think of, that sad period when Freddie wasn't so well and he passed away. I've never asked anybody this, but obviously, you were a contemporary of his. You knew the Queen boys. How was that period for you, knowing that one of your mates, one of your colleagues, as it were, was going through such a bad time? It's such an awful time if you had AIDS.
Terribly sad. Terribly sad. I knew a few people around that time that had AIDS. One guy used to be chef at Olympic Studios, and he's such a lovely. And then I saw him again, and I just nearly didn't recognise him. And I remember the last time I saw Fred was Fred with Montserrat Caballé. Barcelona. Typically Fred is like a masterpiece, and she was lovely. Montserrat Caballé. Wow. And Fred was there, and I remember saying, "Hi, Fred, how you doing?" And he'd lost a lot of weight. And I went to give him a hug, and he said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Fred, shut up." And I gave him a hug, and that was a moment, and terribly sad. The whole AIDS thing was dreadful,
and really awful, knowing that if it was now, it wouldn't be a thing. No. The stigma is not the same as it was back then. There's medication now. It's just so sad to think it was just a tragedy of that time, wasn't it?
It really was. It was, nowadays, a couple of pills. You used to have to take about 20 pills. Yeah. There's a couple of pills and you're okay. And it was just really sad to see someone as amazing as Fred go through that. But the last things he recorded, wow, he was singing so high. Freddie always had a high voice anyway.
Yeah.
I've sung We Are the Champions, Radio Gaga, Hammer to Fall, Who Wants to Live Forever. But the stuff that he did on the last knock-ins was so high. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the show must go on.
Yeah.
Wow.
And actually, didn't he do such a great thing as well? He was honest.
Yeah.
He actually helped so many people in his death, in being honest about that. So
he was honestly, he was a very amazing man. He was a very kind man as well. And Freddie on stage and Freddie off stage were sort of different people, but lovely people.
Tony Hadley, are you enjoying this?
I'm loving it. Well, it's great to talk about music. You do interviews all the time, and you go, I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and everything else.
Yeah.
But it's actually good to talk about music and listen to music, because these are all. Right. For instance, when I play live, do I do Gold, True, Through the Barricades, Only When You Leave? Cut a long story short, yes, of course I do.
Yes.
I know artists that deny their past, and that's crazy. And we're talking about Bowie. I once went to a Bowie concert, and he didn't do all of his hits, or he changed the arrangements to such an extent you couldn't recognise them. And this was Bowie, and there were people walking out to the bar.
Wow.
I think you've got to give people, if you've got a history and a musical legacy, you have to give people what they want, because True, for instance, if I didn't do True, I'd be hung, drawn and quartered. That's the love song. That's the one, the first kiss, the first wedding dance.
Yes.
It was the first time I met my wife or whatever.
So let me ask you this, because I want to do another Spandau Ballet song. Yeah. Would that be the one song? If you're on a desert island and you were only allowed one of those songs, which would it be this one? Or the one that you're most proud of?
Well, I don't listen to my I don't listen to my solo stuff. Once I've recorded something, I put it away and then I'm on to the next thing.
Right.
But obviously, I play those songs live, and I love playing them live. My favourite Spandau Ballet song would be Through the Barricades, just because it's got. True's brilliant, Gold's great. They're all great songs, but Through the Barricades tells a story, and a lot of the Spandau stuff. If you listen to the Freeze from the first album, and Blue Sing Lagoon, Sing Lagoon, I'm sorry, I haven't got a clue. I have not got a Scooby, but it sounds great.
It did, yes.
but then you listen to Barricades, and it tells that it's that love across the divide.
Yeah.
It's influenced by the troubles in Northern Ireland, and I think it's still as poignant today as it was when it was recorded and written in '86. I think it was.
Yeah.
And we played it in Berlin when the Berlin Wall was coming down, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house.
Yeah. So this is a track that you're really proud of.
It's the one song that when I look out into the audience, if there's going to be a tear, it's going to be in this particular song.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Tony Hadley's with me. Thank you for doing this.
Oh,
It's amazing to meet you.
It's been really nice, and it's been great talking about my heroes and past and present.
And it's great to see how your face lights up as we go into these songs. I know that this one you're very excited about. This is going to be the final track of the... Go on, come on, you do the business. You're a fellow presenter. Tell me why.
Well, this is just for me. In 1976, 77, I was a punk. Pre-Spandau Ballet, we were the makers. We played every punk club in London. But one of my favourite places to go was the Hope and Anchor in Upper Street, and one of my favourite bands to see was the Damned.
What were they like?
Brilliant. It was sweaty. The Hope and Anchor's still there. We had a Christmas drink up there, at Christmas, obviously, and it's still there. It's still a club, low ceiling, sweaty, drippy, horrible. We played there, but the Damned, I love Dave Vanian, Captain Sensible, Rat Scabies. Doesn't get any better.
Brilliant stuff. And just finally, we can catch you on tour. Going on tour this year. This is amazing. So quite a limited amount of gigs. I think 14, 14, 15,
like
something like that.
Yeah, we're touring in March. We're doing the Big Swing tour. We have a vinyl album called The Mood I'm In. It's going to be coloured vinyl as well, because everyone's into vinyl, and so am I.
Isn't that a great thing? It's back.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant. I think it's good. People, even my 17-year-old Zara is into vinyl. She's now got a record player. And she buys Taylor Swift, though, which is great. I like Taylor Swift. But so we're out on tour. Palladium in London, Symphony Hall Birmingham.
And it's a swing
Scotland.
gig, isn't it?
It's a swing tour, yeah.
Amazing.
So it's me revisiting classic Tony Bennett, Jack Jones, Ella Fitz, Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr. I mean, I love that style of singing. It's going to be great.
Well, I can't wait to pop down and see you.
Come along, honestly, come along, mate.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. Thank you for having such great stories and wonderful music. Tony Hadley.
Thank you very much.
You're a legend. Thank you.
Cheers.